Français de l'imparfait. It is finally time to talk about a second past tense in French. So the bad news is that you're going to have more than one past tense to worry about, and the good news is that this tense is super easy to conjugate. So let's take a look. The imparfait is one of the past tenses in French. Now, again, just like the passé composé, right? So we've already learned the passé composé. That's one of the past tenses. The imparfait is another of the past tenses. The imparfait is used to describe events in the past, just like the passé composé is, but where the passé composé is used to describe specific completed events, the imparfait is used to describe repeated or habitual events. These can often be translated as used to. And they are also used to describe events in progress. This is what I call the was-ing tense. So if you're talking about something that was happening, then you are going to use the imparfait. So to form the imparfait, it's actually super easy. You are going to start with the new form of the present indicative. Now, don't let this term indicative freak you out. It is simply the present tense that you have been using since 7th grade, but you are going to start seeing this term present indicative because you're going to learn other tenses where that word is going to matter. But right now, it doesn't matter. Same old present tense that you have been using since 7th grade. Then you're going to take off the ONS, and the important thing here is to take off only the ONS. If you start taking off other things, this is not going to work properly. And then, of course, you are going to have endings that you are going to add. So let's take a look at the stem. Like I said, you're going to start with the new form of the present indicative. This is the same present tense that you've been using forever. And then you're going to take off the ONS and only the ONS. This works for regular and irregular verbs in the present tense. So, for example, if you have choisir, choisir is an IR verb. So, and faire is an irregular verb, but it doesn't matter. So choisir is an IR verb. We are going to make that nous choisissons because remember what you're going to do is take off the IR and then you're going to add ISSONS. Okay, not all of that. I'm sorry, not this part. Okay, but you're going to add the ISSONS. But what you take off is only the ONS part of that. All right, so only the ONS, leave everything else. And so what you end up with is choisis. Again, really important here to start with the new form of the verb, because if you start with the infinitive, you're going to end up with something that's not what you want. Faire is an irregular verb. Doesn't matter, we're still going to take the new form, nous faisons. We're going to take off the ONS, and then we end up with fais. F-A-I-S. There's only one verb in French where the new form in the present indicative does not end in ONS. And what does that mean? That means that there is only one verb in French where what we talked about on the previous slide doesn't work. So that verb is être. Remember that the new form for être is nous sommes. So if you try to follow the formula like you were just talking about, you say nous sommes and you try to take off the ONS, and there's not an ONS to take off. So if you want to use être in the imparfait, you can't start with the new form. There's no ONS to take off of that. Instead, you're going to start with an irregular stem, and that stem is e accent aigu te. So you're going to see 8 here. So in case you missed it, there's only one irregular verb in the imparfait. That is super exciting because remember how many irregular verbs we have learned in the présent? There are tons. And the passé composé also has a bunch of irregular past participles. But for the imparfait, there's only one verb that you have to worry about, and that verb is être. So more good news. There's only one set of endings for the imparfait, so you don't have to worry about what type of verb it is. You're always going to put these endings on. Je is AIS. Tu is also AIS. Il, elle, on is AIT. Nous, IONS. Vous, IEZ. Il and elle plural, AIENT. So again, you are simply doing what we talked about. New form minus ONS, add these endings. The only exception to that is être, where you're going to start with the irregular stem, accent aigu, and then you're going to add these endings. So let's take some examples, right? I used to go. So we have the verb go, so that is aller, right? This used to tells me that I am going to do this in the imparfait. So I'm going to take to go, aller. So we have allons, take off the O and S, and then add your ending. So I used to go is j'allais. The water was boiling. We're in the food unit, so let's talk about boiling water. The water was boiling, so you take the verb boil. The verb to boil is bouillir. We're going to learn that. It's a regular IR verb. So I end up with l'eau bouillissait, all right? Because this was-ing tense here tells me that I'm going to put that in the passé composé, okay? The was-ing tells me to put it in the not the passé composé, I'm sorry. The was-ing tells me to put it in the imparfait. I have passé composé on the brain, we've been doing it so long. So, again, it's an IR verb, so you end up with bouillisson, but you take off the O and S, and then you add your AIT, and you end up with bouillissait. All right, we were. Now, were is être. All right, to be. Être is almost always conjugated in the imparfait because usually the idea of to be is a process. It's habitual. It's something that was going on. It's not something that is an event or something that's super specific. So usually you're going to be conjugating être in the imparfait anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with accent aigu, and then we are going to add our new ending, which is IONS. So you end up with nous étions. The girls used to set the table. So again, we have to set, and we have used to, which tells us to put it in the imparfait. And so the verb is mettre. Nous mettons, take off the ONS, and you end up with les filles mettaient la table. So we took off the ONS, and then we added our AIENT ending here. So it's really, really very simple. There are not a lot of irregulars. There's not a lot of funky things. Start with the new form, take off the ONS, add the ending. There's only one set. The only exception to that is être. Start with accent aigu, like right here, and add your endings. That's it. So once you know your endings, and assuming you know those new forms like you're supposed to in the present tense, this is going to be a super easy tense to conjugate. So now you have some conjugamos practice. Let's see how you do.